my cozy corner in front of Adam and Sherry's wood-burning fireplace. It smells delightful. It's crackling. I hope it's not too distracting, but I love it. Also, it's keeping my backside warm. I got to see the Aurora Borealis this week, and you can too. Not exactly maybe where you are right now, but I do want to share some thoughts, tips, tricks, I suppose, facts about the Aurora Borealis, or the Northern Lights. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. If you have been following me basically since I started this channel, you know that I have spent a really good portion of the last 5 years in Alaska. And during the time that I have spent up here, I have seen and experienced a ton of really, truly magnificent things. I've seen moose, I've seen whales, I've seen black bears, brown bears, eagles, beluga whales, orcas, humpback whales. I have seen so many things up here wildlife-wise. I've seen mountains, I've seen lovely waterfalls. One thing I had not seen until this week was the Aurora Borealis, and that changed on Monday. I finally got to see them for the first time Monday night, and then I got to see them again last night. It was a very nice and also somewhat unexpected opportunity for me, so I'm going to take this opportunity to discuss the Aurora Borealis with you and also share some tips that might help you if you are trying to see them on your trip to Alaska. So let's talk about it. Starting with, what is the Aurora Borealis? According to the National Park Service, and this is a direct quote, the Aurora Borealis, or Northern Lights, occurs when a coronal mass ejection, or CME, a massive burst of solar wind and magnetic fields, interacts with elements in the Earth's atmosphere. Coronal mass ejections are often associated with other forms of solar activity, most notably solar flares. Solar winds stream away from the sun at speeds of about 1 million miles per hour and reach the Earth roughly 40 hours after leaving the sun. As the electrons enter the Earth's upper atmosphere, they will encounter atoms of oxygen and nitrogen at altitudes from 20 to 200 miles above the Earth's surface. The color of the aurora depends on which atom is struck and the altitude of the meeting. So in essence, it's a lovely light show that we get to observe under the right conditions. And it's caused by solar winds traveling at incredible speeds and then colliding with atoms in the Earth's atmosphere. So what are the right conditions? The best viewing conditions to view the Aurora Borealis are multifaceted. So for a good viewing experience, which is never guaranteed, you're going to need several things. The first of which is to be located near the auroral ovals. Say that 3 times fast. Either in the northern or the southern hemisphere. So the phenomenon in the northern hemisphere is called Northern Lights, or Aurora Borealis. In the southern hemisphere, it's referred to as the Aurora Australis, or the Southern Lights, but they're essentially identical. Alaska is a really popular destination to view the Aurora Borealis, but the lights can also be seen in high latitudes worldwide, including in Europe, Asia, and other parts of North America. So if you've ever seen a map of the globe, and there's the lines going this way, vertically, on the map, then there's also the lines going horizontally on the map. The tall lines, the ones going up and down, are longitude lines, and the lines going sideways are the latitude lines, and I always think of it like they look flat, so they are latitude lines. But the ones higher up on the globe are like the ones where you're going to be able to see the northern lights easier, mostly because it's located closer to the magnetic pole on the globe. I hope that makes sense. So the first thing is about your location in the world. So if you want to see the northern lights, travel north or south, but probably north. The next element you need for a good viewing experience is darkness. The Aurora Borealis is not visible to the naked eye during daylight. It's actually invisible during daylight because it is a light phenomenon, but you can't see it in sunlight. Another inhibitor to viewing the aurora is artificial light pollution. So city streetlights, house lights, car lights even. So you're going to want to go to a scenic viewing spot with a wide open view of the sky and as little light pollution as possible. Even moonlight can disrupt the view of the aurora if it's a big and bright moon. The next element you're going to need is something, unfortunately, that none of us have control over, and that's clear skies. This is why I feel like I got especially lucky to see the lights twice on this trip, as it's autumn right now, and the weather this time of year is typically cloudy and rainy. It's been cloudy and rainy all day today. To have 2 days in 1 week with clear skies at the right time of day, which is nighttime, it kind of feels like incredible luck. So when the clouds are in the way between you and the lights, you're not going to be able to see the lights because the clouds act as like a visible barrier, so you can't see the lights. So even if there's high KP activity, which just means there's high solar activity, even if there's high activity, if it's a cloudy night, you won't be able to see the lights. And the last element is the time of year. So the time of year to view the northern lights is very significant. Because the Aurora Borealis is viewed best near the northern part of the globe, near the North Pole, and not like at it. I'm in Anchorage, okay? It's further south, much further south. Sometimes you can even see them as far south as Juneau, or even like the northern part of the Midwestern United States, like Michigan sometimes gets viewing opportunities of the northern lights, which is really cool. But because they're best viewed near the northern part of the globe, and the sky doesn't get fully dark during the summer up here, your best bet for viewing the Aurora Borealis in Alaska specifically and other northern parts of the world is during the darker part of the year, which is later in the fall, the winter time, and then like earlier in the spring. The University of Alaska Fairbanks Geophysical Institute states that the viewing season for the Aurora Borealis is roughly from August 21st to April 21st of every year. So I imagine that would be a really good rule of thumb. There's a specifically for Fairbanks viewing season. You might be able to see it better a little bit earlier the further south you go, but I imagine August 21st to April 21st is a really good rule of thumb to follow. Let's talk about the aurora forecast. Similar to weather, and since solar activity is essentially the weather of the sun, and the Aurora Borealis activity is directly dependent on solar activity, there is an Aurora Borealis forecast that can help predict when the aurora activity will be high and you can expect to see the lights. I have found 2 resources that are particularly helpful, so I'm going to link both of them in the description box, and we'll talk about them pretty briefly here. So the University of Alaska Fairbanks Geophysical Institute, I just mentioned them, they have a website, it's accessible on your phone, but they show the aurora forecast for 3 days and 27 days, like a 3-day forecast and a 27-day forecast. Of course, the 3-day forecast is going to be a little more accurate than the longer forecast. But they also have a historical index with a specific KP or solar activity index for the intervals throughout the time period you've selected. So if you've selected the 3-day period, they'll actually show you the predicted solar activity level or the KP level for like hourly, not single hours. I think it's 3-hour intervals throughout the 3-day period. They also show like daily predictions of the KP solar level activity throughout the 27-day period. So I think it's daily for the 27-day. But it's kind of neat. Also on their website, they have live cameras. So if you are at home, I live in Florida. Let's say when I get home to Florida, it's, the night before Thanksgiving, and I just want to see if there are any northern lights out in Fairbanks. I can go to the University of Alaska Fairbanks Geophysical Institute website, and I can click on their live Fairbanks camera, and sometimes you can see the northern lights that way. Of course, it's not the same as being there, but you can still see them, which is kind of cool. They have live cameras in several locations throughout Alaska, and they also have map views of potential Aurora Borealis activity and visibility for Alaska, North America, Europe, the North Pole, and the South Pole. So they've got maps that will show you where you might be able to see the aurora. The other resource is the Space Weather Prediction Center, and they also have an aurora forecast with a much simpler view of today's forecast and tomorrow's forecast. They have the aurora likelihood and the likely view line of the aurora. because just because the aurora is like going to be at a certain place doesn't mean that that's the only place you're going to see it. You're probably going to have a view line further south than the line of the aurora itself, which is kind of cool. I have specifically been using the University of Alaska Fairbanks tool on this trip just because it's the one that popped up first for me, but I did find two, so I thought I would share both of them. So now that I've talked quite a bit about the Aurora Borealis, I think you all deserve a little treat. I have to admit it's difficult to photograph the northern lights. I think it takes a very skilled photographer, and I do not claim to be a photographer at all, let alone a skilled one. I did get some kind of crummy, almost decent video of the northern lights the other day and last night. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert that video here. That's enough talking from me today, I think. But if you have any Aurora Borealis viewing tips, any favorite places, especially photography or videography tips for like trying to capture the Aurora Borealis on your phone or on a camera, just share any tips you've got in the comments so we can all have a better Aurora Borealis viewing experience. But I wanted to open the conversation because I got to see them, and since I got to see them, I want to show you what I got to see, because I did get to see them dancing, which is kind of cool. So they're not actually like, they're not waltzing. They are kind of like shimmering across the sky, which is really cool, but they call it dancing. Anyway, roll the tape.